The tides of two worlds. In the shimmering light of the full moon, the sacred harbor of Nova Haven stood as the last bastion of civilization in a world slowly recovering from catastrophe. The hotel that overlooked the beach, once a luxurious retreat for the wealthy, now served as both shelter and headquarters for what remained of the coastal community. Its weathered facade told stories of both the apocalypse that had nearly destroyed humanity and the slow, determined recovery that followed. Mason Garcia leaned against the hotel's salt-crusted railing, his rebellious nature evident in the way he'd modified his uniform, regulation sleeves torn off, unauthorized patches sewn onto the shoulders. At 23, he had known nothing but the post-apocalyptic recovery era, yet he chafed against the strict order imposed by Governor Vex, the self-appointed ruler of Nova Haven. "You're going to get yourself exiled if you keep this up," came a soft voice behind him. Mason turned to see Chloe Perez, her slender frame silhouetted against the hotel's dim lighting. At 20, she was one of the youngest members of the Resource Council, though her perpetual self-doubt made her question her position daily. "Maybe exile wouldn't be so bad," Mason replied, gesturing toward the vast ocean. "There has to be something more out there than Vex's version of perfect order." Chloe joined him at the railing, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "The ritual is tomorrow," she whispered. "Vex says it will bring prosperity, enough resources to last through winter." Mason scoffed. "You believe that? The era of gods ended when the old world fell. These rituals are just ways for Vex to keep control, to feed his greed while the rest of us barely survive." Chloe looked down, her insecurity surfacing. "But what if he's right? What if the ritual really does work? We're running out of supplies, Mason." Before Mason could respond, a blinding flash of light erupted on the beach below. Both ducked instinctively, a survival reflex ingrained since childhood. When they looked up, a figure stood on the shore, surrounded by a fading blue glow. "Did you see that?" Chloe gasped. Mason was already moving toward the beach access stairs. "Come on." The arrival. The stranger on the beach wore clothing unlike anything they'd seen before, sleek, with subtle illumination along the seams. As Mason and Chloe approached cautiously, the figure turned, revealing a woman with intelligent eyes and an expression of relief. "Oh good, I made it," she said, consulting a device on her wrist. "And right on time." Mason positioned himself slightly in front of Chloe, his defiance manifesting as protection. "Who are you? How did you get past the perimeter sensors?" The woman smiled. "My name is Dr. Alara Voss. As for how I arrived, well, that's complicated. I'm what you might call a time traveler." Chloe let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "Time travel isn't real." "Neither were the gods your Governor Vex claims to communicate with," Dr. Voss replied sharply. "Yet here we are, on the eve of a ritual that could destroy what's left of your world and mine." Mason's interest piqued. "What do you mean, destroy?" Dr. Voss looked up at the full moon. "This harbor sits on a convergence point between realities. In my timeline, this place was never sacred, just a normal beach. But in this alternate reality, the apocalypse happened differently, creating thin spots between worlds." She pointed to the hotel. "Governor Vex doesn't communicate with gods. He's accidentally tapped into technology from my world, misinterpreting it as divine power. The ritual he's planning will tear open the barrier completely, causing a catastrophic collapse of both our realities." Chloe shook her head, doubt clouding her features. That's impossible. Vex has been performing rituals for years. Small ones, yes, Dr. Voss confirmed. Taking just enough resources from my world to appear miraculous in yours. But tomorrow's ritual, under this particular full moon, at this specific convergence point, it's different. The alignment is perfect for a complete breach. Mason studied the time traveler's face, searching for deception but finding only urgency. So what do we do? We stop the ritual, Dr. Voss said simply. And I help you establish sustainable resources that don't depend on stealing from another reality. The plan. Back in Chloe's small hotel room, the three huddled around a hand-drawn map of the harbor. Dr. Voss explained that Governor Vex had discovered an ancient device, not divine, but technological buried beneath the sacred beach. He doesn't understand what he's using, she explained. In my reality, these devices were created to generate clean energy by drawing from parallel dimensions, minimal amounts that wouldn't be missed. But Vex has been increasing the power, pulling more and more across. That explains the sudden blessings after each ritual, Mason said, the pieces falling into place. The food stores that mysteriously replenish, the medical supplies that appear. Chloe looked troubled. But those supplies saved lives. If we stop this, people will suffer. Dr. Voss placed a hand on Chloe's shoulder. If we don't stop it, everyone dies in both realities, but I didn't come empty-handed. She revealed a small pack containing data drives. These contain sustainable agriculture plans, water purification designs, and energy systems adapted for your current technology level. Real solutions, not temporary theft. Mason's eyes lit up with possibility. We could be truly independent. No more rituals, no more Vex controlling everything. But we still need to stop tomorrow's ritual, Dr. Voss reminded them. And Vex won't give up his power easily. Chloe stood straighter, a small spark of determination breaking through her self-doubt. I can get us access to the beach preparation area. As a resource council member, I'm supposed to help set up. Mason looked at her with newfound respect. That's our way in, but we'll need a distraction to deal with Vex's guards. Dr. Voss smiled. I think I can manage that. The ritual beach. The next evening, as the full moon rose higher in the sky, the sacred beach transformed into a ceremonial ground. Governor Vex, a tall man with calculating eyes and ornate robes, directed his loyal followers to place offerings in a precise circle around what appeared to be an altar, but was actually the disguised technological device. Chloe led Mason and Dr. Voss through the back entrance of the preparation area, her council badge granting them access. They wore the ceremonial attire of ritual assistants, blending with the other workers. The device is under that altar cloth, Dr. Voss whispered. I need just 2 minutes to recalibrate it, to close the breach permanently rather than widen it. Mason scanned the beach. Vex has doubled the guards tonight. Something's different. He knows, Chloe said suddenly, her voice trembling. Look at how much he's prepared to take. Those containers, they're enough to hold resources for a year, not just a season. Dr. Voss nodded grimly. He's planning to take everything he can before the breach becomes unstable. He might even know it's a one-time opportunity. As they moved closer to the altar, Governor Vex's voice rose above the crowd. Tonight, under the blessed full moon, The gods will reward our faithfulness with abundance. No longer will we face scarcity. Our sacred harbor will become a beacon of prosperity. The crowd cheered, desperate for hope in their harsh post-apocalyptic world. Now, Dr. Voss whispered, activating her wrist device. Suddenly, the sky above the ocean lit up with spectacular lights, like an aurora but more vibrant, more impossible. As the crowd and guards turned to watch in awe, the three made their move toward the altar. Mason reached it first, pulling back the cloth to reveal a metallic sphere with swirling patterns of light. Dr. Voss immediately began working, her fingers dancing across the surface with practiced precision. "What is the meaning of this?" Governor Vex's voice boomed behind them. He stood with 4 guards, his face contorted with rage. "Seize them." Mason stepped forward, his rebellious nature finding its purpose. "It's over, Vex. We know what you've been doing, stealing from another world, not receiving divine gifts." The crowd murmured in confusion as the guards hesitated. Vex's expression darkened. "These are heretics. The gods have chosen me to lead you from the ashes of the old world. Would you listen to a known troublemaker and a girl who can barely speak without doubting herself?" Chloe flinched at his words, but then straightened her shoulders. "I may doubt myself," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word, "but I never doubted what was right. You've been lying to everyone." 60 seconds, Dr. Voss muttered, still working on the device. Vex signaled his guards. "Take them now, or there will be nothing for any of you." As the guards advanced, Mason prepared to fight, but it was Chloe who stepped forward. "Wait," she called out, addressing not the guards but the crowd. "Governor Vex has told us we need his rituals to survive, that without him we face poverty and starvation. But that's the biggest lie of all." She held up one of Dr. Voss's data drives. "We have the knowledge to build our own future without stealing, without rituals, without living in fear of one man's approval. We can choose order without tyranny, prosperity without theft." The crowd's attention shifted, their expressions changing from confusion to consideration. "Done," Dr. Voss announced, stepping back from the device. It pulsed once, twice. Then the swirling light stabilized into a steady, gentle glow. Vex lunged forward with a cry of rage, but Mason intercepted him, the two falling to the sand in a struggle. The governor was stronger than he looked, his desperation lending him power as he fought to reach the device. "You fool," Vex hissed. "You have no idea what you're giving up." Mason held firm. "We're giving up theft and lies seems worth it." The device suddenly emitted a high-pitched tone, and a small, controlled field of energy expanded outward before collapsing back into itself. When it disappeared, the device's lights had changed from blue to green. "It's done," Dr. Voss said. "The breach is sealed permanently. Both realities are safe." The guards, seeing the apparent end of the divine phenomenon, lowered their weapons in confusion. The crowd began to murmur more loudly, some demanding explanations. Vex, realizing his position was weakening, changed tactics. "This woman has interfered with the God's will. She has stolen our blessings." "No," Dr. Voss replied calmly. "I've stopped you from stealing from another world and potentially destroying both. But more importantly," she gestured to the data drives Chloe held, "I've brought something better than temporary stolen resources. I've brought knowledge." A new dawn. As the night progressed, the truth spread through Nova Haven. Some remained loyal to Vex, but most were swayed by the practical demonstrations Dr. Voss provided, showing how the data drives contained plans for sustainable food production, energy generation, and resource management that could truly free them from scarcity. By morning, Governor Vex had been confined to quarters while the community decided his fate. The sacred harbor began to feel less like a place of mysterious power and more like a home with potential. On the beach, as the full moon finally set and the first rays of dawn appeared, Dr. Voss prepared to leave. "You could stay," Mason offered. "Help us implement all this." Dr. Voss smiled. "My reality needs me too, but you don't need me. You have everything required right here." She looked meaningfully at Mason and Chloe. Chloe, who had surprised herself with her courage during the confrontation, asked, "How do we know we'll succeed?" Building all this, creating a new system, it seems overwhelming. "The chaos of starting something new is always frightening," Dr. Voss acknowledged. "But finding the right balance between chaos and order is what civilization is all about. And remember," she smiled, "slow and steady wins the race. You don't need to rebuild everything overnight." Mason, typically impatient and defiant, nodded thoughtfully. "For once, I think I can embrace taking things step by step." Dr. Voss activated her device, and the blue glow began to surround her. "One last thing," she said as the light intensified. "What happened here, stopping Vex's ritual, proves something important. The ends don't justify the means." Vex thought stealing resources justified his methods because it helped people survive. But real solutions, even if they're harder and take longer, are always better than quick fixes built on harm. As she faded from view, her final words lingered. "Hope is your most valuable resource now. Use it wisely." Mason and Chloe stood on the beach, watching the spot where she had vanished. Around them, Nova Haven was awakening to its first day of true independence, a community ready to build rather than take, to grow rather than steal. "I still can't believe I stood up to Vex like that," Chloe said, wonder in her voice. Mason grinned. "I can. That strength was always in you. You just needed the right moment to discover it." As they walked back toward the hotel, now a symbol of both their past struggles and future possibilities, Chloe looked out at the peaceful harbor. "Do you think we'll ever see her again?" "I don't know," Mason replied, "but I think we'll be okay either way." The morning sun cast long shadows across the sand, the tide gently receding to reveal new shores, much like the new beginning that stretched before the community. The war between peace and chaos, between tyranny and freedom, had found its resolution not in complete victory for either side, but in the promise of balance. That night, as the residents of Nova Haven gathered to discuss their future, to begin the reconciliation between Vex's followers and those who had opposed him, Mason and Chloe sat on the hotel balcony, looking up at the stars. "To think there are whole other realities out there," Chloe mused. "And we saved two of them," Mason added with a smile. "Not bad for a rebellious troublemaker and a self-doubting council member." Chloe laughed softly. "Former self-doubting council member, I think I found something today I didn't know I had." "Inner strength," Mason said, "the most valuable resource of all." As they sat in comfortable silence, watching over their changing world, the gentle rhythm of waves against the shore provided a soothing backdrop, a reminder that even after apocalypse, after conflict, after revelation, life continued its steady, hopeful march forward. "Good night," Chloe whispered, not just to Mason, but to the old world of fear and scarcity they were leaving behind, and to the new dawn of possibility that awaited them.